This meeting is now live streaming. Apologies for the delay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 29th of January, 2024 board meeting. I want to start us off in a good way by recognizing and acknowledging both the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. Welcome to everyone. May I have approval of the agenda? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder, Trustee Gagnon. Any changes or amendments to the agenda? All right, all those in favor of the agenda then, with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. We have one set of minutes from our December 11th, 2023 board meeting. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder, Trustee Mabobi. Thank you very much. Any changes or amendments to those minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the minutes again with a show of hands, please. And that is unanimous. Any business arising from the minutes? No? Okay, we're moving on then. We have nothing under A4 through A6. Our first item then is A7, community presentations. We have one presentation this evening from Jean Morrison, who's joining us to speak to the International Student Enrollment Policy. Has Ms. Morrison joined us?
I don't see Ms. Morrison in the waiting room yet.
Okay. So perhaps we'll give Ms. Morrison a minute to join us. And then if not, then we'll move on to our next item. Okay, so we're going to move us on to A7, B. So we have a number of items of correspondence, first under B1 and under B2. Trustees, would you like to pull any of those pieces of correspondence? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to pull B1, the January 17th correspondence from Colquitt's Middle School.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Trustee Kwan, when you're ready.
Okay, and I had one question about that, and that was with regards to, I think it was the start of the second paragraph in the letter, second page, second paragraph, which would be on page 15 of our packet. And I'll read it out. It says, having only recently had the opportunity to review the results in the survey summary report, which we gratefully obtained from the individual who had to submit a Freedom of Information request to receive it. And so I just wondered, I know that during our deliberations as a board, I'm pretty sure that was all public, and in the agenda, the survey results were included. I wondered though if the survey results actually were found somewhere on our website, and wondered if why a freedom of request had to happen to get those survey results, and perhaps if they were available public, does that mean that we waived the fee for a Freedom of Information request?
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. I'll refer that question over to the superintendent. Superintendent Whitten, can you assist with that?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I believe that the information was made available to the public through the post on the website. However, the volume of information may not have presented that to the individual right away. So the Freedom of Information all of the information would have been provided, and the fee would have been waived.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Any other questions? Anything else anyone wants to discuss in relation to those two items under correspondence? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move us on to C1. That is the chair's report. Just want to highlight a couple of things from my report. One, I just want to say what a privilege it was to attend the student connections with staff and some of my board colleagues. we rarely get an opportunity to have that sort of one-on-one connection with our students. One of the opportunities, of course, is through our budget process. So just wanted to say thank you so much, both to the students who gave us some of their time during the school day to contribute and give us some feedback around budget, but also to the staff who both at the school-based level and the district level have organized the events and taken part. And to my colleagues, it's wonderful to be able to be at those kinds of events with you. The only other thing from my report, which is there for your information, that I wanted to highlight is the trustee assignments. So last month, so in December, I included in my report all the various trustee assignments, but I didn't actually include the assignments that trustees get to a family of school. So we have 7 families of schools in our school district, and there is a trustee assigned to each. And those are the trustees that often schools will invite to attend special events and the like. And so I just wanted to include them in my report for your information. Please do share those with schools so that they know which trustee to invite to their special events. And then finally, under reminders, we do have an accessibility survey which closes on the 31st of January. And I just really wanted to highlight, take the opportunity to highlight that and to encourage folks to participate in that survey. Further to that, you'll see that there is also our board work plans. Our board work plans are included under C. That's for January and February 2024. It gives you an idea of the items that we'll be working toward in the next couple of months. And then finally at B, so this is an item that we agreed in November to revisit, and this is around our Section 72 reports. So in the spring of last year, the format of those reports changed, and we agreed to come back having the benefit of considering a memo provided by the Secretary Treasurer in November, and to revisit whether the board would like to revert back to the previous format and the previous reporting, or if we want to continue with the new Section 70 reporting format. So I wanted to bring this so that my colleagues really can give both me and in particular staff some direction about how we want to proceed in terms of that. In particular, the way that the format changed was that the attendees at the in-camera meetings were not listed any longer on the Section 72 reports that we make public. The Section 72 reporting process is a requirement under the School Act, but there's sort of various formats that different school districts use. And so the question I think for us tonight, trustees, is whether we revert back to the previous format for reports, or if we continue to utilize the new reporting format. So looking for some direction. Certainly my suggestion is that we look to revert back, and that where there are concerns that might arise in relation to individuals listed as participants, that we review those on a case-by-case basis, and we take the opportunity in camera to do that where there's concerns. But yeah, looking for some direction, colleagues. Trustee Kwan.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've heard through question period and other forms of communication that our public would like to have that it revert back to what we've seen in the past and what they're used to. So I'll kind of wait to see what my colleagues think, or if there's anyone else around the table that has anything to add, but I do have a motion prepared if that's the way my colleagues want to go.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Does anyone want to add anything before I invite Trustee Kwan to move her motion? All right, Trustee Kwan, go ahead when you're ready.
All right. So the motion is simply this: it's that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, directs the superintendent to revert back to the usual Section 72 reporting format and update the Section 72 reports between March 2023 and January 2024. And I can put that in the chat if that's helpful.
Sounds good. Thank you, Trustee Kwan. And then I'll look for a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. I'll just give you a moment, Trustee Kwan, to add that to the chat, and then I'll open the floor for discussion. Okay, so the motion is in the chat, mainly for the benefit of our staff who are minuting our meeting. But it's there in the chat that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the superintendent to revert back to the usual Section 72 reporting format and update the Section 72 reports between March 2023 to January 2024. All right, trustees, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor with a show of hands, please. And that is unanimous. Thank you, folks. That was everything from my chair's report this month, unless anyone has any questions related to it before I move us on. Okay, so we have now under D, board committee reports, we have education policy and directions, which is first up.
Chair, can I do a point of order?
Go ahead.
I just noticed that Jean Morrison has joined the meeting and was wondering if we would be able to go back to A7A to allow her to speak.
Trustees, I'm at your discretion if you want to go back to the earlier to the earlier part of our agenda under presentations. I'm happy to do that. We wouldn't normally do that, but I appreciate that there were some technical issues that we were having as we started our meeting, which might have impacted Ms. Morrison's ability to join us. Yeah, okay, I'm seeing I will use my role as presiding officer to make a unilateral decision. Yeah, that's no problem. I don't see any objections from my colleagues. So why don't we'll do that, and then we'll go into our board committee reports after that. So just for clarity, we're going back and to the community presentation portion of our agenda for a moment. We have Ms. Morrison, welcome. We have 5 minutes essentially. I will be literally timing you. I will, though, give you a very polite indication when you're about a minute away from the 5 minutes. So the floor is yours when you're ready. And again, I'll just interrupt you very politely just to let you know when there's a minute left. So when you're ready, you can begin.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you so much for welcoming me here this evening. I'm sorry I did have some technical difficulties, but I'm super excited to be here with everyone. My name is Jean Morrison, and I am a French immersion teacher in our school district, and I am a parent of a child who's also in the Greater Victoria School District. And I wanted to start out by saying I do appreciate everything that we do and that I'm very proud to be a teacher in this district. But it came to my attention back in the fall that there was a policy that was being passed around international student enrollment. And I was really concerned when I read the policy and I read the impact statement of the policy, because in looking at it in detail, it looked to me that if the international student policy rolls out over the next 10 to 12 years, we could have some major impacts in our school district. First of all, it looks to me like if we roll this out, we could potentially have some schools that would have little to no international students. And as a parent, I would hate to see schools that have maybe less diversity than others. And it also concerns me as a French immersion teacher. I've been a part of the French Advisory Council in the school district for about 8 years now. And as a part of that committee, we worked very hard over the last 8 years to create catchment areas and boundaries and enrollment priorities for students in immersion. And the reason we did this was to help keep programs equitable across the district and to allow us to continue to build stronger connections with our students who are entering from grade 8 up into the high school level, and to also reinforce that idea of family of schools, to help kids feel a connection to the family of schools. And my concern when reading the data that was presented in the impact report, it looks like some French immersion programs from the Vic High family of schools, as well as the Reynolds family, could be significantly impacted by this. that worries me about how this program's equitably divided amongst the district. And it also worries me for some of the impact that can have on other educational opportunities that we do provide our students, such as music, athletics, strings. All of these programs tend to have a large percentage of French immersion students enrolled in them in schools where French immersion is a program. So I was just hoping to just share my concerns, wondering if there was any way that to look at the policy again and perhaps consult with some stakeholders, some parent groups, or some administrators or teachers at the schools. I think that we all want the same thing. We want diversity, we want inclusion, and we want equity. I would hate to see us not have as many international students in our district. They bring in a lot of money, but they also bring in a great amount of cool languages and cultures. And so I just wanted to share my concerns and perhaps advocate for some consultation, like I said, with parents, administrators, teachers. I'd be happy to sit and talk, and maybe there's other avenues that could be explored. So I just wanted to thank you all for letting me join you and to share how I was feeling about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. We appreciate you joining us and sharing your perspective. And you were very quick. You had 1 minute and 30 seconds. So we appreciate you sticking to the time available. And we'd be most happy if you want to reach out anytime directly to have a conversation about the board's policy and what it actually says and who was consulted. I would be most happy to do that. My contact details are on the website, so I'd invite you to do that. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great night.
And you. Okay, folks, we are at the board committee reports. First is D1. This is the Education Policy and Directions Committee. There are draft minutes there for information only, and there are 2 recommended motions. I'm going to suggest that, subject to my colleagues' direction, that we look to separate them out. My understanding is that we've got a little bit more that we might want to do with the first motion under B. This is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve revised policy 6163.1, learning resources as amended, and further direct the superintendent to prepare corresponding learning resources administrative regulation for review by the Board of Education in April 2024. So, colleagues, looking for some direction. Do we want to separate those out? And if we do, may I have a mover for the first motion? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. And a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Bayo. Okay, so I know there's a couple of amendments that I'm going to recommend to you this evening, but before we get into amendments, I just wanted to pause and turn to our partners around the table this evening with us to see if there's any further feedback. I know that staff, and in particular Associate Superintendent Arts, worked to incorporate some further feedback that we received from VCPAC. So thank you both to VCPAC and to Associate Superintendent Arts for the work to incorporate that further feedback into the draft. So yeah, just wanted to pause for a moment and just allow our partners to provide any comments that they would like to before the board starts to do our work to make any further amendments. Good evening, Nissa. Nice to see you. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you very much, trustees. I just want to express my gratitude for the board considering the feedback from VCPAC. It just means a lot to see parents' voices and concerns reflected in this education policy. So I wanted to thank you, and I recognize revisions take time. So thank you very much to the school board and the staff at the district for incorporating them.
Thank you very much. No, our pleasure. We appreciate the engagement and all the detailed engagement that we received. It's very clear that everybody wants to land in a good place of clarity and sort of cover off all the major themes. There were a couple of further items that I think we just want to maybe look at this evening, just for further amendments to 2 sections. But before I look to do that, I just wanted to pause one more time just to make sure that I haven't missed any partners that might want to speak to this before we do that. Okay, so there's a couple of sections that on reflection we touched on, and we've made some changes too, but I think there's a little bit more just fine tuning of the wording that I would suggest that we do, and that's at first at section 3.95. So just bear with me a second. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna just, we'll utilize our chat feature to help us navigate through the first amendment. So this is to 3.95. Chat doesn't want to cooperate. It's probably too long. Here we go. Okay, so bear with me one more minute. So I'm gonna just send around a suggested revision. So essentially what it is adding wording to the end of 3.95. Now let me see here. So what I've done for ease of reference is just include the entire section, completely reworded. But for staff, what has been added, I'm just going to put in bold, so that it's really easy to sort of see what we've added, and then I'll read it out so that everybody can hear who's watching at home that might not see our chat. So the suggested amendment at 3.95 is, right now it reads, selection is an ongoing process which includes the removal of materials, which includes the removal of learning resources. That's been changed already. So materials should be crossed out. Sorry, in the chat, some of the amendments don't actually translate. So it should read that selection is an ongoing process which includes the removal of learning resources which are no longer appropriate according to approved criteria for the selection of learning resources. And this is what we'd be adding. And other criteria specific to the ongoing reconsideration of learning resources currently in use, such as age, damage, or relevance. So just picking up on what I understand to be the actual process that is currently utilized in our district, and when it comes to ongoing review of learning resources. So, and this is the first time we've spoken to it in the policy, and that's just to pick up on the idea that we also constantly are undertaking review of learning resources based on age, maybe damage to the materials, or relevance. So I'm happy to move that, but wondered if my colleagues, if anyone would like to second that. Trustee Kwan seconding. All right, so let's open up the floor to discussion. So again, just to clarify, it would read, selection is an ongoing process which includes the removal of learning resources which are no longer appropriate according to the approved criteria for the selection of learning resources and other criteria specific to the ongoing reconsideration of learning resources currently in use, such as age, damage, or relevance. Any discussion? Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I do think that the relevance element is addressed in 3.8.2, where we say be evaluated for relevance, accuracy, reliability, and bias. The age and damage part sounds good to me.
Trustee Gagnon. Yeah, it was really for clarity, having spoken to a teacher librarian in our district. This is the criteria that they would use in addition to the other criteria. And so it was really just to make sure that it was very, very clear what we're asking for. But yeah. Any other discussion, folks? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to call the question if we're ready to go. All those in favor of the amendment at 3.9.5 with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. All right, thanks, folks. Okay, so the only other area that I'm going to suggest an amendment to is just we tried to address this during the standing committee, and I think it just didn't translate. So I just wanted to clarify. This is at 4.1, and this is just about clarifying the process and what should happen where we have someone come forward and ask us to reconsider the use of a learning resource. And so just be adding and just clarifying the sentence that we tried to include last time. So at 4.1, it would read, the board delegates the responsibility for the selection. Sorry, let's not read the whole thing. Let me just add the sentence. I think it might be easier. So the last sentence at 4.1 would read, the review of requests for reconsideration of the use of learning resources will be undertaken in accordance with the review process outlined in the associated regulation 6163.1. Okay, so let me just put that in the chat. So it's just rewording the sentence, the last sentence at 4.1, so that it's very clear what it is we're trying to achieve. So at 4.1, the new last sentence would read, the review of requests for reconsideration of the use of a learning resource will be undertaken in accordance with the review process outlined in the associated regulation 6163.1. So just looked at the wording and thought we could be more clear. And I think it was my fault, frankly, for not being very clear in the standing committee when we tried to revise this. So I'm happy to move that, but again, would be looking for a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment to 4.1? And that is unanimous. Okay, so we've made a couple of further amendments. We do have a main motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve revised policy 6163.1 learning resources as amended, and further direct the superintendent to prepare corresponding learning resources administrative regulation for review by the Board of Education in April 2024. May I have a mover? As Trustee Kwan and a seconder, Trustee Gagnon. Any further discussion? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
I just want to say a quick thank you, gratitude to those that are on the policy committee. I know this was a big work in progress. Also just wanted to say a big thank you to staff, especially Associate Superintendent Arts, who brought this forward and did a lot of work on it too. So just thank you to everyone who was involved with this. I think we've got a really great policy moving forward, and it definitely needed some work. So appreciate all that you've done.
Thank you very much, Trustee Kwan. Yeah, no, it was a great group effort. It was nice to see so many different folks getting involved, partners, staff, trustees. Yeah, it was nice to do together. Okay, so if we're ready, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. All right, thank you, trustees. Appreciate your patience while we worked through those final two amendments. All right, that brings us to our second recommended motion coming from Education Policy and Directions, and that is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the board chair to write a letter to the Ministry of Education and Childcare with a request for additional funding for staff to complete DEI training in line with the K-12 Anti-Racism Action Plan. Again, I just want to pause before we move the motion, just to create some space for our partners around the table tonight if they would like to speak to this motion before trustees do our work. Okay. All right, trustees, may I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Mabobi, appreciate it. Any discussion? Yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Again, I'll just motivate. I don't know that I really need to, because I think we're all of the same mind, but it's imperative that we mindfully create space to do this in a good way, in the right way. And I think in order to do that, we need resources, we need release time, we need collaboration time. So I think some training needs to be done, and I think that we need to look to the provincial mandate where the action plan came from in order to receive those resources that we need. So
thank you, Trustee Kwan. Any further discussion before I call the question? All right. All those in favor with a show of hands. And again, that's unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. Appreciate it. All right, so we are moving on to D2 of our agenda. This is the Operations Policy and Planning Committee. We have draft minutes at A for information only. We did not have any recommended motions coming from that standing committee this month. And so I will move us on to D3, which is our 2024-25 budget section. This is going to be a standing item on our agendas between now and when the board votes to finalize a budget for 2024-25. I'm going to turn this item over to the Secretary Treasurer, who will walk us through it. Secretary Treasurer, when you're ready.
Chair, the first item in here is the values and guiding principles. These are the values and guiding principles of the board. And we have some dates that are included in this document. So it's really just to update that this is in reference to 2024-2025 budget. And as well, the second page under timelines, that the third reading will be no later than April 11th, and that should say 2024. And if there are any other changes that the board wishes, then they can be incorporated as well. But there is a motion there to approve the revised values and guiding principles.
Thank you very much, Secretary Treasurer. All right, trustees, we have a recommended motion. Would somebody like to move that? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Mabobi. Any discussions? Any changes or amendments? Oh, Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just confirming what the Secretary Treasurer said on the second page with the timeline, ensuring that we change that date from 2023 to 2024. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think we can do that as a friendly amendment. I see a thumbs up from the Secretary Treasurer. Yeah, just a typo. Thanks very much. Any other changes, amendments that we want to make before I call the question? Sorry, I was remiss. I did not pause and allow our partners an opportunity to raise any comments or observations that they wanted to in relation to this before we vote. So I'm going to pause and correct myself. Just create a little bit of space for them to do that if they wish. Okay. All right. So trustees, if there are no further comments, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. All right, so we have an approved set of values and guiding principles. And now at B, Secretary Treasurer, is there anything that you wish to highlight in terms of the budget development process again for 2024-25? I know there's a couple of revisions that have been made. I'll turn the floor over to you when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Probably the most important thing to highlight is that there have been 2 changes of meeting dates. One budget working group, they're already aware of that. The February 15th date is being shifted to February 13th as more people can attend. And then the next one, the public meeting was originally slated for April 4th. And so we are shifting that to March 14th. A few reasons for that, mainly so that the board can have all of the feedback from all of its rights holders and education partner groups in the public before the spring break. And it allows just a little bit more time to work through that. And because right after spring break, we're coming into the board deliberations. Yeah, and I just updated all of the dates of the various meetings that were had, so there's a record of that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. We appreciate all your work and the work of the team on this. All right, trustees, we have a recommended motion that the board approve the revised 2024-2025 budget development process. Before I call for a mover and a seconder, I am going to pause and ask our partners if they have any comments or anything that they would like to discuss before I do that. All right, trustees, may I have a mover then? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon, and a seconder. Trustee Mbobi, thank you. Any discussion? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Not really a discussion again, just expressing gratitude, first of all, to Katrina and Julie and your team for putting this budget process all together and having all the information that we need on hand when we need it. Just really appreciate that. Also realize that it's a very tight and meeting-packed schedule. So thank you to staff and to all of our partners around the table for accommodating so many meetings.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a bit of an echo of thanks, in particular for moving the public meeting from April 4th to March 14th. I know the public meeting last year in particular was a very valuable time where we were able to engage with the public. And by moving it that much earlier, it allows us for more time to evaluate what was said, because last year we weren't able to get to every table as individuals. So being able to review what is said at tables that we didn't get the privilege of sitting at gives us that much more time. And it also gives the public that much more time to get their feedback in if they attended on the night, forgot something, and wanted to reach out. I think it's a good idea to have a little bit more of a buffer there. So I am appreciative of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. Any other thoughts before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. All right, thank you, folks. Appreciate it. We now have an approved process again. So we also have at C, D, E, and F some further updates from the Secretary Treasurer in relation to the budget process. Secretary Treasurer, was there anything that you wanted to highlight from those information items?
No, I think they speak for themselves. I will mention that, and it is in the memo that the detailed notes have been provided to trustees. So for anyone who participated in either the student or the partner BPVPA meetings, the trustees have received that information. Did our best to capture sort of highlights of the feedback that was provided at those meetings. I will just highlight that in particular around the students, it's quite themed out, and I didn't want to leave any feedback out, but I will make a comment that if a comment is on here, it may not necessarily reflect that all of the schools said it. So just bear that in mind as you read through the comments that are in there. I think, yeah, I don't think I have any other further comments to make on that.
Thank you very much, Secretary Treasurer. All right, trustees, did you have any questions for the Secretary Treasurer in relation to those information items before I move us on? Okay, so we are now at E of our agenda. The first item under E is E1, the Superintendent's Monthly Report. We do have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, receive the Superintendent's Report as presented. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Oh, sorry, no, Trustee Kwan. I will leave room for questions, don't worry. So may I have a mover? Thank you, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. So as moved by Trustee Kwan, seconded by Trustee Gagnon. Any questions related to the Superintendent's Monthly Report? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to pull out, it looked like a school visit to Central Middle School on January 19th, and I wondered if the superintendent had anything that she would like to share about that visit. It's really great. You know I appreciate it when I can visit schools, so I just wondered if there was anything that came out of that visit that she would like to share.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Superintendent Whitten, was there anything that you wanted to highlight for the board in relation to this school visit?
I would certainly love to share. The purpose of the visit was to go while the Stanley Cup was in the building. So we had many guests, lots and lots of meetings leading up to it, as you can imagine. So many thanks to Scotiabank for helping us with Hockey Day in Canada, but also to staff and students at Central who were fantastic guests and fantastic ambassadors and very excited. And as a follow-up conversation with the principal at Central said that they were standing taller on the Monday after the event. So they had pictures and they had a Q&A and just a fantastic community event and lots of excitement for the students. So that was the reason for that particular visit.
Thank you, Superintendent Whitten.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Through the chair, if I may just quickly, is it possible just to express gratitude?
Please do.
In my memo, just want to circle back to the report and express gratitude to the facilities department for all of their efforts during the inclement weather, the many weather events that we had. So including the snowfall, which they were out and about very early in the morning and late at night clearing snow and parking lots and paths, and also to all staff and the school community for the support over the different weather challenges we had.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Whitten. Any other questions for the superintendent in relation to her monthly report? All right, so we do have a motion that's been moved and seconded to receive the superintendent's report. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees, and thank you, superintendent, for your monthly report. We now, under E1B, have a moment to look to trustee questions. Trustees, do you have any questions this month? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move us on to E2. This is the Secretary Treasurer's monthly report. And again, we have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, receive the Secretary Treasurer's report as presented. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Bayo, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Any questions for the Secretary Treasurer in relation to her monthly report? Secretary Treasurer, was there anything that you wanted to highlight from your monthly report before I call the question?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, so thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, all those in favor with a show of hands. And then again, that is unanimous. All right, thank you very much. We are now at F of our agenda, which is question period. We have 15 minutes total. Just turning to staff to see if we have any questions.
Through the chair, yes, there are 5 questions from question period. I've sent them to you in email.
Okay. Just bear with me a second, folks, while I look to see what we have here. Okay, so the first question is, all right, so this individual is saying, due to parent outcry, there has been multiple attempts from the police board to meet with the school board to discuss the shared responsibility for student and staff safety. The first meeting was booked for November, which was canceled and rebooked for December by the school board. The December meeting was then canceled and rebooked to January by the school board. The January meeting was also canceled by the school board. When will the board prioritize student and staff safety and reschedule this very important meeting? Well, I can speak to that. It's just based on, I guess, misinformation. The Board of Education wrote to police boards to invite them to engage in board-to-board dialogue about our joint responsibility for student and staff safety. And our board has not canceled any of those meetings, but has been understanding and open to the requests of one in particular police board that needed to reschedule multiple times. And when we get a request or a confirmed date from them, then we will make ourselves available. So I think the individual maybe just has some misinformation. Our next question tonight is, when will the Board of Education return to holding in-person meetings? SD61 is the only board on the island and in the Lower Mainland that will not hold in-person public meetings. We've had the question before, and what we're looking to do is to get an estimate of the cost to upgrade our boardroom so that folks that are listening to our meetings while we're in person can hear who's speaking and who votes in what way. And so once we get a sense of the cost of upgrading our boardroom, then we'll look to make those investments and then return to in-person meetings. And in the meantime, the online platform we found to be very accessible and actually increase the number of folks that can tune in without having to worry about childcare or getting to the board office. But we will continue to look at this issue, and once we've got an estimate of the costs of upgrading our boardroom, we'll revisit the question of returning to in-person meetings. Superintendent, was there anything from a staff perspective that you wish to add in relation to the question?
No, thank you, Chair.
All right. So our next question this evening . So the next question is, did any member of this board attend the Gang Education and Trends seminar held at Oak Bay High on January 25th, 2023? So I can answer, I think, that question on behalf of my colleagues, although if my colleagues wish to add anything, then I would invite them to. We did kindly receive an invitation from the PAC at Oak Bay High to attend. I replied on behalf of the board, just thanking them for the invitation, letting them know that trustees already had evening budget related meetings that we needed to attend, and then just letting them know that the principal from the school would be in attendance. Colleagues, did you want to add anything else in related to that before I move on? Okay. Our next question this evening . So the question is, please provide us with the meeting dates and which police boards this school board has met with since the removal of the school liaison officers. Has the meeting with Victoria Police Board been rescheduled since the school board canceled the past 3 meetings? When is the meeting rescheduled for? So again, I think this question is based on some misinformation that the individual has got. We have not canceled meetings with Victoria Police Board. And when we hear back from them about when they would like to reschedule the meeting, then we will make ourselves available. And I suppose it would be also probably helpful, given the level of misinformation that might be going around in community, to kind of clarify that the Board of Education's decision around the SPLO program did not impact what was happening in Victoria and Esquimalt schools. SPLOs have not been in Esquimalt or Victoria schools since 2018. So I think there's just maybe some misinformation going around, but I would invite the individual, if there is a lack of clarity or they're concerned, to please reach out, and we're happy to provide further information. I think we have one more. Is that right, Deputy Superintendent? That there might be one more, or have I gone through them all?
There is one more through the chair.
Okay, let me just bear with me, folks. Okay, so there is, so just to clarify, so when we do question period, our bylaw states that each individual, so we have 15 minutes to conduct question period, and each individual is able to ask one question. And so this individual has asked multiple questions. So I'm going to go with their first question. Why are facilities asking for more funds for SJ Burnside on top of the initial 6.5 million provided, then 8 million to address the upgrade and seismic refit? So I'm going to refer that question over to staff. Superintendent Whitten, are you able to provide some information to the individual asking the question?
I think based on the question through the chair, I think it would be better that we were able to review it and get back to the individual.
Certainly, Superintendent Whitten. So just to the individual, if they're watching the live stream, the way that it works is that while we can only answer one question for each individual, your question, staff will come back to you with an answer. And then how that works is that the answer provided by staff will then be included in the minute of the meeting under the question period portion of the minute. Okay, so just confirming that was it, Deputy Superintendent, in terms of question period tonight?
Through the chair, that would be the last question. Yes, 5 questions in total.
Okay. All right. Thank you to everybody who took the time to write questions. We encourage you to do so, and look forward to your questions next month. Just going to return to our agenda. So our last item under G is public disclosure of in-camera items. We have 3 records. So these are the Section 72 reports under G1 through G3. They're there for your information. Do we have any new business or notice of motions, trustees? Okay, hearing none. Well, we have now reached that stage in our agenda where I will call for adjournment. May I have a mover to adjourn? Trustee Kenyo, thank you, and a seconder. Trustee Mabobi, thank you kindly. All those in favor of adjournment? And that is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you all. Take care.